Most men spend their entire lives building a fortress, only to realize they locked themselves on the outside. You think you are in control. You think your ambition is yours. You think your emotions are reactions to the world. But you are wrong. There is a silent architect in the back of your mind, drafting blueprints you never approved. Psychologists call it the Dark Triad. Jung called it the Shadow. But let's call it what it really is, the invisible script that has already decided your fate. If you do not identify which of the 3 specific shadow archetypes is currently piloting your life, you aren't a man. You are a biological puppet dancing to a tune you didn't pick. Today, we are going to kill the puppet. We are going to look into the mirror, shatter the glass, and see what's actually looking back. Have you ever achieved a massive goal, a promotion, a new relationship, a physical milestone, and felt absolutely nothing? Just a hollow wind blowing through a room you thought would be filled with gold. That is the symptom of a life lived by proxy. Modern psychology suggests that distinct evolutionary drivers trigger dark personality traits, not because you are evil, but because you are trying to survive. But here is the trap. Survival mechanisms make terrible life captains. When these mechanisms hijack your consciousness, they manifest as 3 distinct entities: the Glass King, the Cold Calculator, and the Void Walker. One of them is likely ruling you right now. It dictates how you text, how you negotiate, and how you sleep. And the terrifying part? You probably think this sickness is your personality. Let's dismantle the first one, the most common and the most pathetic. The first archetype is often mistaken for confidence. You see a man who walks tall, speaks loudly, and demands the best seat in the restaurant. He looks like a leader. He isn't looking at the world. He is looking for a reflection of himself in the world. This is the Glass King. Conventionally, we call this narcissism. But forget the pop psychology definition. This isn't about loving yourself. It is the exact opposite. It is the total inability to generate self-worth internally. Imagine a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can pour the ocean into it. Compliments, money, status, sex, and it will never fill. The Glass King is addicted to the pour. Perspective shift. Stop and ask yourself, when you post on social media, when you tell a story at a dinner party, are you sharing or are you fishing? If silence makes you anxious, if a lack of validation feels like a physical attack, you are not ambitious, you are malnourished. The tragedy of the Glass King is that he is a slave to the very people he thinks he is better than. If I have to impress you to feel good, you hold the keys to my reality. I am your servant. We see this in the imposter syndrome epidemic. Why do high-achieving men feel like frauds? Because they built their empire on the opinions of others, not on the bedrock of their own competence. The Glass King eventually shatters. It is a mathematical certainty. Age fades beauty, markets crash, fans get bored. And when the external supply is cut off, this man does not just fail. He implodes. He becomes the tyrant in his own home, punishing his wife and children because they cannot provide the dopamine hit that the world used to give him. He dies thirsty while drowning in an ocean of his own tears. But perhaps you look at the Glass King and laugh. You don't need applause. You don't need love. You need to win. Enter the second shadow, the Cold Calculator. In the textbooks, this is the Machiavellian. But let's understand the mechanics. This is a man who has converted his life into a game of chess, where everyone else is a pawn. He views emotions as inefficiencies. Vulnerability is a security breach. Intimacy is a leverage point that can be used against him. On the surface, this man is successful. He is the operator, the strategist. He reads the 48 laws of power not as a warning, but as a Bible. He navigates corporate politics with surgical precision. He knows exactly what to say to get the deal, the girl, or the vote. But here is the counterintuitive insight that no one tells you. Transactional relationships compound into isolation. The Cold Calculator thinks he is playing a multiplayer game, but he is actually playing solitaire, because when you view people as tools, they eventually realize they are being used. And human beings have a highly evolved cheater detection mechanism. We can smell the transactional nature on you. The Cold Calculator ends up in a prison of his own design. Paranoia. Because he knows he would betray anyone for an advantage, he assumes everyone is trying to betray him. He cannot sleep. He cannot trust. He has no brothers, only temporary allies. History is littered with these men. Talleyrand, the great French diplomat, survived every regime change, betrayed everyone, and died wealthy. But he died alone, trusted by no soul, his legacy written in ink that faded before his body was cold. If you are always keeping score, you are already losing the game of life, because you are trading connection for control. And control is an illusion. Let's pause. Breathe. I want you to think of the last time you hurt someone. Did you do it because you were fragile and needed to feel big? That's the glass king. Did you do it because it was a necessary move to get what you wanted? That's the cold calculator. Or did you do it because you simply didn't care? Because the consequences didn't register? Because the suffering of another person felt like static on a radio? Now we enter the deepest part of the cave. The third shadow is the most romanticized by weak men. You see it in the worship of fictional characters like Patrick Bateman or the Joker, the Void Walker, the Psychopath. The internet tells you this is Sigma. The internet tells you this is strength. I don't care about anyone. Let me correct you. This is not strength. This is a neurological deficit. The Void Walker lacks the hardware for empathy. It isn't that he suppresses fear, it's that his amygdala doesn't fire. He walks through fire not because he is brave, but because he is numb. He is the ultimate predator, high risk, high reward, impulsive. He seeks sensation because his internal world is a flat line. He needs chaos, danger, and destruction just to feel alive. In the short term, the Void Walker wins. He crushes the competition because he is willing to cross lines that moral men won't touch. He lies without a pulse spike. He destroys without a backward glance. But nature has a way of correcting imbalances. The Void Walker almost always burns out. Why? Because sustainable power requires cooperation. To build an empire that lasts, you need loyalty. And you cannot demand loyalty. You must inspire it. The Void Walker cannot inspire. He can only intimidate. And eventually, the villagers gather with pitchphones. The legal system, the social contract, or a bigger predator eventually corners him. He ends up in a cage, literally or metaphorically, alone in the void he created. So, where does this leave us? If the Glass King is a slave to others, if the cold calculator is a slave to paranoia, and the Void Walker is a slave to impulse, is the solution to be a nice guy, to be soft, harmless, and naive? Absolutely not. Innocence is not a virtue. Innocence is just a lack of opportunity to be malevolent. A rabbit is not virtuous because it doesn't eat the wolf. It is simply weak. The goal is not to excise the darkness. It is to integrate it. Carl Jung argued that a man who has not developed his shadow is not a good man. He is a harmless man. And harmless men are capable of nothing great. You must take the fragments of these shadows and forge them into a tool. This is the fourth way. From narcissism to vision. Take the narcissist's desire for greatness, but strip away the need for external applause. Burn the addiction to the mirror, but keep the ambition to build a legacy. Build for the sake of the building, not the clapping. From Machiavellianism to strategy, take the calculator's ability to plan, to read room dynamics, to understand human nature. But use it to protect, not to exploit. Use your strategic mind to elevate your tribe, not to bankrupt them. Become a guardian, not a user. From psychopathy to stoicism, take the Void Walker's ability to remain calm in chaos, the ability to detach from hysteria, but keep your empathy online. Feel the fear, feel the compassion, but do not let it paralyze your hand when action is required. How do you do this? How do you stop performing and start being? I'm going to give you a protocol. 3 steps to kill the puppet master. Step 1, the validation fast. For the next 7 days, do not speak about your achievements. Do not post them. Do not fish for a compliment. If you do something good, bury it. Let the silence burn. Watch how your ego screams for attention. Starve it. Step 2, the empathy audit. Look at the 3 people closest to you. Ask yourself, what do they need from me that gives me nothing in return? Then do it. Break the transactional loop of the cold calculator. Step 3, the voluntary hardship. The Void Walker seeks chaos to feel alive. You must seek discipline to feel alive. Cold exposure, heavy lifting, fasting. Induce stress on your own terms, so that when the world stresses you, you are already inoculated. The world doesn't need more nice guys, and it certainly doesn't need more narcissists, manipulators, or psychopaths. The world is starving for dangerous men who have chosen to be good. Men who have looked into the abyss, recognized the monsters living in their own blood, and put a leash on them. A man who knows how to manipulate, but chooses honesty. A man who craves admiration, but chooses service. A man who can destroy, but chooses to build. That is true power. Not the power over others, but the power over yourself. The shadow is always there. It's waiting in the dark. The only question is it sitting on the throne or is it kneeling at your feet? Wake up.